Hello, my name is Devold. As you probably already know, that I'm a guy suffering from brachial plexus injury, which happened more or less 17 years ago. This happened when I was 19 years old. Yeah, and I can tell you one of my biggest concerns at the time was, because I didn't have my license at the time, will I be able to drive a vehicle? You know, will I be able to get my license at the end of the day? And you can imagine that time I have to go for driving lessons and whatever. I was riding motorcycles, so you can get with that, or riding motorcycles, and I was kind of a speed freak, and everybody said, no, don't worry about it, you'll get your license. But one thing nobody told me is this, or one thing I realized was that who will be able to mentor me? So I'm going to a guy teach me how to ride a car, but obviously the guy teaching me has two arms. So how would they teach me if I only have one arm? So that was sort of a thing that I had, and eventually there was some kind of insurance that paid out when I had the accident, which my father had. So I got the vehicle, so I obviously had to go and do my license, and then everybody suggested I must get this a knob on the steering wheel, and that just sounded ridiculous to me. So that every time I want to switch a vehicle, I have to take this knob with, and who wants to walk around with a knob in his pocket all the time? I mean, me also loving cars, loving motorcycles. I'm a kind of a motorhead. This the idea with the knob was really bad. So I just decided, let's just get in and do this thing. I did purchase a knob just to, for obviously getting the for actual passing the actual license, show that I'm concerned about safety and that I will be able to turn a steering wheel with only using one hand. And another thing was driving an auto vehicle or a manual vehicle. So everybody said, no, I will only be able to drive automatic vehicles. And automatic also, you're young, 19, you're kind of a speed freak. Now you have to granny around in an automatic vehicle for the rest of your life. That just didn't sound right to me. So I just decided, you know what, I'm gonna drive a stick vehicle, a manual vehicle, regardless of what people are saying. So, and I didn't have a mentor at the time, so I had to teach myself. But I'm making this video just as a how-to. If you guys are also concerned about these type of things, I'm just telling you now that you, as a brachial plexus injury, or an amputee, or a guy suffering from this kind of same type of injury, or maybe you had a stroke and you only have the use of one arm, then it is possible to use and still get around using a manual vehicle. You don't have to adapt to automatic. If you love automatics, fine, but if you only have a manual vehicle, don't sell it, don't trade it in for automatic. If you're concerned about these things, it's still possible to do a manual. And the only problem, though, which is the only problem which I have driving a manual vehicle, is taking a turn, and in a turn switching gears, because then that causes you to remove your hands from the steering wheel, engage the clutch, and change the gear. And then if you realize that you're going into a turn, now the vehicle will go straight, so you might hit the pavement. But that's the only thing that you really need to adapt. So all you basically have to do is, before you take the turn, make sure that you're in the correct gear. It sounds obvious, but if you're standing still at a traffic light and you have to turn left or right, if we are in South Africa, you have to turn left or right most of the time, and that causes you to drive over the oncoming side of the road. So the turn gets quite long, and you might find yourself going into a high gear, like, and once you're around going straight, then you can only change. That was a bit, and obviously you pull away in first gear. So I'm going to demonstrate now that it is possible. So if you notice that I'm driving now manual vehicle, I'm going to take a right turn. So once I'm in the turn, I just do this. Nothing happened. While the car is going sort of straight, I already changed the gear. So you eventually adapt in changing gears quicker, and you'll realize sooner than later, that it's changing gear only using one hand feels almost the same as you would using two arms. People even driving with you wouldn't realize that you're disabled. I had that a lot. You know, people just notice, look, why are you changing the gears with your right arm? You know, but they don't notice like I'm struggling, which is a good thing. But all I can tell you, do it. Just take on life. Drive a manual vehicle if you want to drive a manual vehicle. If you don't adapt, don't listen to people saying no, you can only drive automatics from now on. Do your manual vehicle if you like it. I mean, I had sports cars through my life. I mean, it is a sport type of vehicle, but it was a Honda S2000. It's in a sports class, you know. I had other Honda sports car vehicles, and you know, I like speed. So, and I used to race as well, you know, legally. Using manual vehicles. There's no limitation to your disability. It's just a matter of getting your head around it, and then continue doing life. I want to do more RT videos because there was nobody. I had no one to teach me this kind of things, because you have to ask a guy with two hands to put his one hand in a pocket and say, now, okay, teach me how to drive with one hand. You can't expect that from people. So I just went through this on my own. I got it right, but I'm here to tell you that it's all possible, and you have to get used to it. But once you're used to it, then you don't realize that it's a big issue. It's really not that difficult. If this somehow inspires you just to continue on, you know, getting around wherever you need to go, nobody has to drive you around. Don't think that's gonna happen. Thanks, and I'll continue to make other videos how I do stuff, and also there's certain categories of videos which I want to do. For example, I want to do how-to videos, how I do stuff, and obviously, but then I also want to do videos on you know, showing my empathy, and you know, sharing my experience, sharing how I deal with the pain and so on. And dealing with the pain while driving, how can I say this? Sometimes I get I call it fit. You know, you get those peak moments where you have a lot of pain, but because you're concentrating on the road, it sort of takes off your it takes your mind off the pain. But I do still experience the high percentage but high amount of pain while even driving. But don't let that stop you from doing it. People might not even realize that you're having a high pain moment even while you're driving, even though you have. So yeah, good luck with your situations. I'm here to support you as always, and share some of your videos, how you do stuff and how you do driving. Subscribe, like this video. I apologize, my English is not my first language, Afrikaans is. So hopefully this video was understandable enough for you to grasp of actually what I'm saying. Yeah, thanks and goodbye. Oh, and by the way, if you guys have any suggestions of what kind of videos I must make, how do I do this, how do I do that, what is a better way of doing certain things, add that in the comments, and I'll see what I can do. And I would love sharing it. So yeah, get those comments coming.